Hola, muy buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Bienvenidos a este tercer Congreso de Migraciones de Periodismo de Mérida. Disculpad la demora, sabemos que tenemos poquito tiempo, así que voy a hacer esta presentación muy cortita. Mi nombre es Patricia Macías, estamos en la sala 1 y esta es la sesión de Enfrentar y aprender los prejuicios sobre migraciones. Os pido por favor que mantengáis vuestros vídeos y micrófonos apagados durante la sesión para que sea fluida, y también os aviso de que vamos a estar terminando unos 2 minutos antes de y media para que podamos tener tiempo de preparar la siguiente sesión. En esta sesión, que va a ser interactiva, contamos con traducción simultánea, ya que todos nuestros ponentes van a estar hablando en inglés, y además al principio vamos a estar lanzando una votación a la que os pedimos, a todos los que estáis aquí esta tarde con nosotras, respondáis para que podamos hacer esta charla lo más interactiva posible. Y bueno, y sin más, pues os voy a presentar a los tres ponentes que tenemos hoy con nosotros rápidamente. Por un lado, Blanca Tapia, directora de programas de la Agencia de Derechos Fundamentales de la Unión Europea. Por otro, Daniela Drastata, periodista y productora de la televisión croata HRT y presidenta del Grupo Intercultural y de Diversidad de la Unión Europea de Radiodifusión. Y por último, Frans Jenneckens, productor ejecutivo de la televisión pública holandesa y vicepresidente de este mismo grupo. Bienvenidos, welcome, and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we go right into it because we don't have much time. So, and I think the most interesting thing for us was also to get you who are following us, to get you involved from the very beginning in this discussion and to hear actually your questions. So right now you can see a poll that just probably came up from your screen, and it would be fantastic if you can just answer that. We would like to know where you are calling, where you are following us from. So I am in Vienna, in the EU Agency for Fundamental Rights. Daniela?
I'm in Zagreb, in Croatia. Well, quite close to Vienna, like 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yes, by car. And France?
Yes, and I'm from Amsterdam, in more the northwest of Europe.
Wow, that's fantastic. What we're going to bring to you here is really an interesting debate about something that maybe not that many journalists think about, which is their own biases, because a lot of them are unconscious. So I can see that there are people are coming from Europe, they are from South America, sorry, and you want to be inspired. And yes, some of you have answered that you know some of your biases, but but only a few, and there are probably more. Okay, if somebody else can answer the poll, it would be really fantastic, so that we get more people voting and have a better ideas. But anyway, this is a good starting point. I know there are only 2-3 votes now. I know there are a lot more participants following. So it would be great if some of you can actually continue answering this poll, so that the next minutes are very useful for you. So let's go right to the issues here. We were discussing, we've been working, all three of us, for the last years on several projects, in particular on migration. And in migration, we need to know that it has been a very polarized issue in such a way that it has become very controversial, and it has been used very intensively a lot by the right-wing politics. And it has right now turned out to be one of the topics that polarizes societies the most. So we have seen how it was used during the Brexit. We have seen how Donald Trump also used it, and during the talking about the Mexican border and who's going to build a wall in Mexico. We saw it in Italy with Salvini. We saw it in Spain when it came into the right wing, talking about the issue of unaccompanied minors. And a lot of us as journalists try to report about it very, let's say, as impartially as possible. But when we report about a topic, there is a lot of biases here. And France has been working very intensively on this topic from the newsroom. So, Frans, what have you done in the Dutch television, and how can you change, and if it's at all possible, to change people's biases?
Well, I think the first thing to do, it's important people know how it works. You know, bias you get by the amygdala. The amygdala are two small things in your brain. It's in the old part of the brain, so it's already a long time there. And in this amygdala, it stores all your experiences and it also coordinates your reactions. For instance, it says to you, when there is fire, withdraw your hand, or when you have an experience with someone who is violent and you know you have to run, all these kind of things. So, and we learn from the beginning, already as a child, what your feelings are and what your biases are. So in the end, this means we are all influenced by our the area where we come from, the family where we come from, everything which is stress to us. And because of this way, how we are built, we try to tend always to work with people who are the same like us. And we try to trust people who look like us or who think like us. So that's one of the first things every journalist has to learn, that this, everything how you think and mostly how you behaved, comes from the area where you come from and comes from the family around you, come from everything that you learned. So you have to know that someone who is born in a slum in Ecuador has a completely different idea of the world and understanding of the world than someone of me who is born in one of the most richest parts of Europe and comes from a very high educated country where all children learn quickly and all kind of things. So what we did in the newsroom, all the journalists and even everyone who's there, even the people, the technical people, the camera people, they all got an unconscious bias training to learn how bias controls your life and also influences your work and your views. And around that, after this training, we developed a sort of strategic plan how to deal with it, that we should change the editorial team, that we always should try to find different kind of story, not only one view. For instance, we are a very secular country. Most people in the Netherlands are not religious anymore, so most journalists are not really very religious and have ideas religious is not a good thing. It's something that you should get rid of. Well, that's of course a very peculiar view. And so you should always organize in your team also people who are religious and who think religious is a good thing and religious inspires you. So for us, that was quite a very important start of this changing of the newsroom. And we are doing that now for 3 years, and we see the newsroom change, and the newsroom is more in their opinions and in their view, more broad. It reflects more the people in the country. So.
Because in public television, it's very important to be able to reflect for everybody. So have a real reflection of the audience. I mean, you have this duty to do it. But I have then a follow-up question here with Daniela. How's that in Croatia? I mean, in the public television of Croatia, are you guys that aware of this?
Yeah, you were so right. You were so right when you said that we should reflect our audience and society where we live in. And although I do live in multicultural society, or this is how I see it, at Croatian television, at public broadcaster, or in media in general, we are like miles away from what Frans was just talking about. And for last 3 years, I've been following closely what they were doing in Netherlands and some other North European countries. And well, I can only dream about it, because we don't think we will make better decisions if we embrace this unconscious bias trainings. We think that it will only complicated our decision-making process. And we don't think we should do it to attract, let's say, new talents, because there are so many sons and daughters of our cousins and bosses that we should give jobs to, because we live in highly corrupted society. And the whole culture of inclusion, well, no, we don't feel like doing it, because Croatia is predominantly white people country, and we are all Croatians and so on. I think you can hear that I'm being sarcastic here, of course, because this is not something that I'm happy with, but more than 25 years after the war, still Croatian society lives under the influence of that war, and all minorities are seen through the lens of one minority because of that war. And as a society, I would say we are quite close to minorities, because even, not so recent survey of FRA, of the Fundamental Rights Agency you work for, showed that every fourth person experienced discrimination based on their ethnical background. And that's the European average, but in Croatia it's even higher. Just recently we published the document about hate speech for among young people, and 96% of young people said that they have experienced this hate speech based on the fact that they are different from the majority. So saying all that you understand that there are some of the colleagues who are on that part thinking about our unconscious biases, but in general we didn't come to that point yet.
And Frans, this happens everywhere. I mean, when I started working in broadcast journalism, I started in the United States, and of course there are always people who want to have their friends or their colleagues or their whatever. It's usually people who know each other and know the profession that then help people to get in. So it's like you have to have someone inside already. But at the same time, when you work, and I saw this as well in the public television in Spain, when I also worked. But then when, in your case in the Netherlands, I mean, how have you changed this culture? How have you changed, for example, hiring, human resources? How had this influenced the way in which the human resources are looking into the curriculums of journalists, knocking on their doors and trying to get in? How is the change made?
Yeah, it goes very slowly. Of course, it looks like we know in theory what is needed, but in practical, it goes very slowly, because we are also, the journalism in the Netherlands is predominantly white, is high educated. All journalists come from the big cities. So it's changed a little bit that it's now more women than men. So it's not before it was only a man's business. That's going quite well. Even in the top of the organizations, you see more and more women are director or general director. But I think in the newsroom, it is still quite white. And even the newsroom is like 50-50 men and women. So that changed already. But to find a reflection that you also have people from different kind of culture. For instance, we have a very big Moroccan and Turkish community in the Netherlands. And we still have also big communities from the former colonies, from Suriname and Latin America, and from Indonesia. And we also see that, and from the Caribbean islands, but we don't see them very much in the newsroom. So what we try to do now, that the Human Resources Department got a special task that they can nominate at the last 3 candidates someone of a minority. And not only ethnical, but it also can be someone who's less abled, or someone who is living in a region far away. So they have more kinds of diversity than only the ethnical diversity. So they come up with candidates in the last 3, and then it's up to the commission who they choose. And what we see in practice now is that it goes quite slowly. We started at 8% with people from a different cultural background in our country. Now I think it's 11 or 12. So from the 500 journalists, we have probably like 50 or 60 journalists who have a different cultural background, who come from Latin America or who come from Africa or who come from Turkey or some from Asia. So it is changing, but very, very slowly, because most journalists tend to stay working in the company where they are. So we don't want to fire people because of this, because then you get the wrong incentive.
Exactly. But at the same time, when journalists don't know, I mean, when the reportages that are being published really are coming with our own way of understanding things, from a cultural background, from our European white background, and we don't understand what it is to live in a suburb, in the suburbs outside a city, to live in zones which are ghetto zones. We are not reaching to this population. We're not reaching to these viewers. Audience is going down. So what can be done then? I mean, how can we report on that topic? I mean, linking it to migration. Migration is changing our societies. It's changing who is part of our daily lives, who is our neighbor. So I would like then to ask you, how do you think then that we can talk about these issues in a way that these other people who are our citizens who live with us, are our neighbors, feel that they can find in public media, in main media, the information that represents the way they are and the way they are feeling, so we don't let them aside? What do you think could be done?
Yeah, what we do, I think you have to go there. We have, for instance, for the radio, we have a mobile studio. We have on Radio 1, that is our biggest news radio station, we have every day a program with a mobile studio who goes to these areas. And it speaks to the people there, because people from what we call poor areas never go to the studio in Amsterdam. And then they really don't like all this media from the big cities. But if you come with the studio in their neighborhood and you talk about the problems they encounter, you talk about their life, well, then they participate. So we thought, if you won't come to us, we come to you. So I think that's a good way to go there. I think what is also important, to find influencers on the social media and to find opinion leaders who reflect the opinion in the neighborhoods where a lot of migrants live, or in the neighborhoods where a lot of people are very against the system. Because they think they're not helped, and they think it's not fair, and they're discriminated, and all these kind of things. So we trying to find people who coming from these neighborhoods and give them the floor in opinions, in columns. Try to bring the opinions that live in these areas. And we do that, but it's not happening everywhere. It's still quite small, I must admit.
And Daniela,
Blanca, if I may add something, I think that though it's very slow and complicated, and you really should put a lot of effort to find some young talents who have a different ethnic background, and that's something that we, even within the EBU group of diversity experts, we work on that together. We encourage between each other, ourselves, to do it. In European context, it's really important to know that we should talk a lot about trust between the public media services and our audience. And it's always closely connected with free and independent and the reporting that reflects everything. So my only hope would be that we will be forced to do it, as we understand that we are losing this trust from the audience.
And I can see that we are about to finish. What I would like also to finish with is to really encourage the audience, all of you who are following here, maybe to ask one question and also to look at the amazing job that Daniela and Frans have been doing, going to those neighborhoods across the EU in a co-production, which is called New Neighbors. And I'm going to put it here in the chat for everybody to look at. Those are the documentaries they've been working on as co-production in Europe to reflect the new reality of Europeans who live with people from all over the world and to reflect how we are changing. So I think only through that reflection we can really look into a more diverse public broadcasting and diverse information that really reaches to the new reality of Europe and the people who are now living with us in this continent.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you, Blanca, Frans, and Daniela. I'm so sorry that we have to finish already, but thank you for your time. We really enjoyed it. And thank you to the audience.
Bye, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. And
goodbye.
We all inspired. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.